Okay. So we'll go ahead and continue. You want to do the summary from section 9 and 10?
Yeah, until now, Adil, I don't even know. The last one.
Until section 16.
Yes, yes. Okay. Since we don't have it, we didn't have it last week. I just want few sentences about what we have done before I start from the 9 and 10. As we know, the Sukracharya is the son of sage Bhrigu, and when he became a young man, he meditated and practiced some austerity, but still had subtle attachments. His state was like that of a pendulum swinging between worldly desires and spiritual goal of desirelessness. Once his father, sage Bhrigu, absorbed in Nirvikalpa Samadhi for a long time, Sukracharya was occupying his time seeing the natural beauty of nature and witnessed Apsara flying through the sky. She seemed like a very embodiment of beauty to the young mind of Sukracharya, and Apsara also seeing him fell in love with him. Sukracharya, wounded by the arrows of Kamadeva, lost all awareness of the body and mentally became one with her and traveled along with her to Indraloka and saw all the gods of heaven. After staying with Indra for a short time, he went to see the Apsaras and delighted to find his Apsara. They both infatuated with each other and revelled in the pleasures of heaven. After a long period of time, exhausting their meritorious karmas, and fell to the earthly world. Sukracharya, born as a son of Brahmin couple and practiced intense austerity, and again met the Apsara and begat a male child. After that, Sukracharya had next embodiment as a son of king and ruled the kingdom for a long time and died. Reborn as son of an ascetic and practiced intense austerity by the banks of Samanga River. Sukracharya's physical body in the Mandarachala mountains became emaciated, dehydrated by the action of sun and wind. And because of the spiritual powers of sage Bhrigu, animals of the forest has given up the natural instincts of violence and did not devour the remains of Sukracharya's body. It was reduced to skeleton and became embodiment of ugliness and inauspiciousness. Sage Bhrigu came out of his samadhi after a long time and looked for his son Sukracharya. Finding him absent, he looked in the ashram forest, forest until he found the dead body. It was like a dried up stick and infested with birds and worms and frogs resting under the body with cobwebs woven around it. Sage Bhrigu, overcome by sorrow, prepared to curse the time spirit by the force of his anger. And seeing this time spirit of the Kala appeared before him in person. Of course, the description is 12 arms, 6 faces, and all the ornaments, and arms and celestial weapons, etc. Time spirit said that great men are not overcome by delusion, and without investigating into the truth of the matter, sage Bhrigu, venting his anger, and also he says that he is just following the laws of universe and not afraid of sage Bhrigu's curse, since he cannot affect him. Only sage will be destroying his merit that he earned through his austerities by his action. He also says every living being has two types of bodies, physical and mental, and physical subjected to death and destruction, and mental continues to exist until the attainment of liberation. And he says to Sage Brughu that your son left behind his physical body in order to follow the course of his mind, um, followed an apsara in his mental body, contains continue to um, wander through many embodiments. Son of ascetic, and he has now incarnated as Vasudeva, the son of ascetic, and practicing austerity on the banks of Samanga river. Time Spirit tells Sage Prugu to use his spiritual vision and see how mental illusions of his son have led him to his present conditions. Sage Brughu says that through his yogic vision, he has witnessed the bodies of his son adopted by the force of mental desires and now discovering him on the banks of Samanga river. Mind in every individual is his greater reality, and it is the mind that conceives of and projects the physical body. Time Spirit continue to talks about the power of the mind. For just as potter molds the pot, the mind molds the physical body. All objects of the world are as real as the thoughts of the mind. Vasanas or subtle desires of the mind arise from ignorance, sustain the vision of difference and duality. Just as a silkworm creates a cocoon and encloses itself in it, every individual creates his own bondage by the erroneous functions of his mind and then becomes entangled in it. The soul, by force of wisdom, is able to break away the fetters created by the mind and thereby frees itself from the world process. The Supreme Self is ever liberated. Bondage and liberation belongs to the individual soul only. Time Spirit continues. All souls arise like waves from the ocean of Brahman. Some destroy the veil of ignorance and master its illusory forces, roam like gods on the earth until the termination of their prarabdha karma. Others, being dull and insensitive, like logs of wood, continue to build around the cycle of birth and death. Still others, in whom moha or illusion exists in an attenuated form, and they are bound to attain liberation after the mind gradually become free of impurities. Time Spirit says to Sage Brughu for them to proceed to where Sukracharya engaged in austerity on the banks of Samanga river. They descend from the Mandarachala mountain and proceed towards the river. They saw Sukracharya absorbed in Samadhi. Time Spirit awakens him. He opened his eyes and saw the two spiritual beings in front of him. He bowed down to both of them. Sage Bhrigu urged Vasudeva to remember his past and to recall how he was Sukracharya, his son, who wandered through many embodiments and come to present personality of Brahmin Vasudeva. The young ascetic directed his intuitive vision towards the mystery of his identity and discovered the facts of uh, discovered the facts. The three of them proceed to Mandarachala mountain where Sukracharya's um, remains are. Brahmin Bhrigu saw some of them, I'm taking it out. Bhrigu saw his skeleton covered with the green leaves and says that his body is now called dead and now free from evil spirits of chitta and no longer shaken or driven by the monkey mind. Sage Vashishta says to Rama Ignorant as well as wise must live through the body as determined by the prarabdha karma, while illumined sage remains detached from the world, not creating karmas uh, for the future embodiments, while ignorant souls continue to create new karmas, bind themselves down to future embodiments. Time Spirit says to Vasudeva to discard his body and enter into the previous body. The cosmic will ordained you to be the guru of demons. May you take up this magnanimous role and guide the demonic race. At the end of Mahakalpa, you may renounce this body and attain Videha Mukti. Time Spirit disappears after saying this to Vasudeva. Understanding the nature of his karmic process, Sukracharya renounced his body of Brahmin Vasudeva and entered into the body of the son of Bhrigu. Sage Bhrigu, along with chanting of mantras, sprinkled water on the skeleton to facilitate the re entry of his son's spirit into the original body. Skeleton began to change, veins appeared, pranas began to flow, body passed through many changes and came back to life, and consciousness returned to it. Sukracharya, having regained his previous body, stood up and adored his father, and sage Bhrigu embraced his son. Sukracharya accepted the role of becoming the preceptor of the demonic race and even now continues to perform that role. He continues to abide in the self and ever detached from the world process. That's all I have. I have a lot more, but I don't want to read all that.
Yeah, yeah. I think we can even story-wise, we can even reduce all that and go
Yep.
and give you only the essence of the teaching, so we can stick to less than 10 minutes. That will be good. So very good. Thank you, Amma. So that way went through what happened 2 weeks ago, and so we see the wonderful story of the Shukracharya and the his father Bhrigu, the son of Brahmaji himself. So all these were extremely pure souls. So even as a pure soul, the Bhrigu uh, was deluded that Shukracharya was his son and was about to curse even the Bhagavan. So, and the same way that the pure-hearted the Shukracharya also when he got exposed to a beautiful apsara that he was get carried away. And so it shows ordinary people like us how careful we should be. Don't get carried away and say, oh, I can put up with this one, I can see this one, it's okay, I can go to that movie, it's okay, I can read this one, it's okay. So we have to avoid all these worldly things as much as possible and stick to your karma yoga and gnana yoga and bhakti yoga. So that is the essence I get, and we'll continue to see the teaching from this whole story as we continue. So we can say the whole thing is a projection of the mind, and we identify with the body. I'm sorry, the mind projects the body, and then identified with the body goes and identifies with the whole world as mine, and that is the cause for our fall. So
Raghuji, just a thought. Despite being so evolved, Bhrigu is still attached to his son's body, and he is still wants him to come back into the body so that he can physically see him.
yeah, that's one way true, and other way also that the Shukracharya was destined to become the a guru of the demoniac race. And so I feel that is the reason that
Okay.
he was brought back.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. The question
Thank
that
you.
might come up, oh, why couldn't he have continued as Vasudeva also with the same thing? That I have not been able to find an answer. So all this that happened because of the vasanas that happened, and from in the body of Vasudeva, he had purified himself again, and now he will continue as
Gracharya.
Shukracharya. Like you said, does he have to come back to that body? That those things I have not been able to clarify myself. So.
Thank you, Raghuji.
Okay. Mano, you want to continue, please?
Section 17, the glory of pure mind. Sri Rama asked, O sage, how is it that Shukracharya attained the object of his desire while there are many who are unable to fulfill their desires? Sri Vashishta explained, there are two causes for the fulfillment of a desire. One, Chitta Shuddhi, a relative purity of the Chitta that enables a person to pursue one's object of desire with a one pointed attention. And two, the force of fructifying karma that leads one to a certain form of enjoyment. In the case of Shukracharya, he was able to follow the course of his desires because of his chitta shuddhi that he had acquired through his austerities. However, his mental purity was not absolute, and therefore he was led through many embodiments. As the mind increases in purity, it develops the ability of becoming modified into any object it thinks of with keen attention. Just as the surface of a lake is modified into waves through the action of wind, in the same way, the mind of a yogi assumes the form of any object through the force of his desires. It is in this way that every soul experiences a world of its own according to the structure of the mind through which it operates. But as the mind attains increasing degrees of purity, the soul experiences the spontaneity of fulfillment of its desires. And when the mind is absolutely purified, the soul emerges from the illusion of desires, frees itself from the world process, and discovers its essential nature as Brahma. What I can see in three sentences, I'll tell you. Sri Vashishta is saying that there are two causes for the fulfillment of desire, because Sri Rama asked how Sukracharya attained the object of his desire. So, one is Chitta Shuddhi, the relative purity of the Chitta with the one pointed attention, and the other one, fructifying karma. But again, the last paragraph, what he's saying is, some assume, some have the purity of mind to some extent. So, with that force, uh, with that mind, they get these desires, they have their desires met. But as the mind attains increasing degrees of purity, um, and the mind is absolutely purified, it goes beyond all the illusions and desires and frees itself from all the world process, and discovers its essential nature as Brahma.
Right. Yeah. So, if you're tamasic, you don't really have any worldly desires. You're slothy and sleepy and all that. In case if you get any desires, it takes a long time that you have to become rajasic and put your all your effort and then gradually realize. And if your dream is uh, such that even if you put your effort, you might not reach your goal in this life. You might get that result in the next life or some other life. Because the jiva has desire, and until it is fulfilled, that it remains in it, in the mind, in the jiva. But as the mind gets purified and purified, uh, the, the time distance between the desire and the achievement of the goal becomes shorter and shorter. So it's just like that. I want to eat like a kind of a particular sambar, and I'm so pure that another devotee brings the same thing, as if that I called and told her to bring it. Like that, little desires get fulfilled immediately. But if you get attached to that desire and say, hey, I can get what I want, and then get materially oriented, your purity becomes less and less, you suffer. But if you understand that as I get purified, that I get my desires faster and faster, but my real goal is the realization of myself. And so that we should not get bogged down by these worldly achievements that you can achieve. And particularly when we people realize that, hey, he's a pure hearted soul, and if you ask him for something that he can achieve it for us, and if we get carried away and then start fulfilling the worldly desires of the people, and then we do not make any progress. So this is the reason the purifying of the heart and study of the scriptures should go together continuously. So, Nag, I'm sorry, Manoj is not here. Is Maya Amma here today?
Yes,
Yeah, Maya,
Hariom.
you want to read Amma?
Just as a tree arises out of tiny seed, so too out of the seed of ignorance, the word tree arises in various forms. Yet, in truth, this word tree is illusory, and through this realization, the very seed in the form of ignorance is destroyed. The chitta or the mind stuff becomes the world, and the world is nothing but the chitta. When the chitta is reduced to chitta or pure consciousness through the process of purification, the word process ceases to exist. When a jewel is cleaned and polished, it shines. In the same way, when the mind is purified through concentration, meditation, and spiritual discipline, it recovers its latent spiritual luminosity. Then, whatever desire arises in this relatively pure mind, that becomes its reality in very short time. The will of a yogi becomes invincible by the force of purity of mind. You want me to continue?
Then we can comment, Amma.
He just he's comparing about the seed, just like the tree, uh, become a tree arises from the tiny seed. And same way, the ignorance seed of I mean seed of ignorance, the word tree arises, and then the truth. Yet I know where I am. Arises in various forms. You have the similarly. He's comparing. I'm sorry, I have a little bad throat. And then he say that it's the same ignorance. I mean, same seed. It can become chitta. Mind is stuff becomes the word, and then when chitta becomes a chit, a pure consciousness through process purification, the word process ceases to exist. So, and then he comparing the jewels, when they clean, they shine. The same way when the mind is cleaned, it becomes desireless, and yogi becomes invincible for by the force of purity of mind. That's all I understood. Thank you.
So one thing that we have to remember is that like we are comparing like a seed becoming a tree. The same way, the ignorance, from the ignorance comes this world process. So when the seed becomes the tree, the seed disappears. But when the world of plurality appears, the ignorance is gone. The ignorance continues to be there. So that's why whenever you compare some things, giving examples, you should not get carried away with the example and find similarity in everything. So the ignorance continues. And only way that the ignorance can be removed is by knowledge, through the realization that I am that. That can happen only as your mind gets purified, automatically a guru comes to you and you continue to get that knowledge and make that knowledge your own by constant meditation and realization. Then the chitta realizes I am that pure consciousness and becomes one with it. Chitta becomes the chit. So he gives beautiful examples of the jewel like that. That's the reason in chapter 14 Bhagavad Gita, when Lord Krishna talks about the sattva guna, he says, Tatra sattvam nirmalatvat prakashakam anamayam sukha sanghena badnate gnana sanghena chanaga. The sattva, being immaculate, is illuminating and flawless. It binds through identification with joy and wisdom. So, but that joy and wisdom is joy and wisdom in one's own self, not joy from the possession of the objects of any kind. But because of the purity that you do get this siddhis, and so one should be extremely careful. So, okay, Nag, you want to continue, sir?
Hari Om, sir. O Rama, an impure mind is unable to commune with a pure mind. But just as melted iron blends with melted iron, in the same way, a pure mind blends with a pure mind. Just as gods enter into the dreams of people and confer blessings on them, in the same way, a guru is able to enter into the world of his disciple and lead him to the state of liberation. While increasing purity of mind endows one with the revelation of limitless powers of the soul, the supreme purity of mind enables one to be free of the world process. He who attains supreme purity becomes the self in all. He realizes his essential nature as Brahman.
Comment?
See, the world is nothing but the projection of the mind. If there is a traffic jam of too many desires and everything in the mind, nothing happens. If the mind is clean, if there is no traffic jam, the guru can come and guide you, and he will ultimately lead you to your destination, which is the realization of Brahman.
Right. Yeah. So the guru might be in your own house or the next door, but if you are mentally not ready, you look at him as another human being and you do not see the greatness of that person, and so you do not get any benefit from being close. And so most important thing is purity of your mind, and then the guru comes in one way or the other. And so if you read that what do you call the Bhagavatam story of the what is his name, Siddha Purusha, that Yadu king met and asked him, how is it that you are so blissful? He said, I got 21 teachers, that everything in nature that he could see was a teacher. Like that, that as mind gets pure, that we start seeing the teacher in everything in the world. And to get that knowledge, a guru comes in our life. And so it is for us to take advantage and continue to grow. So the last portion is very, very good. He who attains supreme purity becomes the self in all. So that's why how to overcome sattva that we are going to see in Hamsa Gita, that sattva can be overcome by pure sattva. So you have to continue to purify ourselves and get rid of any tinge of desires, worldly desires we have, and continue to abide in that knowledge of Brahman. Then we realize that I am that Atman in every being, and everything is in me, and I am in everything. He lessens the essential nature as Brahman, that is, Aham Brahmasmi. So, that is our goal. We'll continue to do the sadhana. So, and Raja Redikar is not a Rakesh Kumar is gone to India. And Ratnamma, you want to continue, please?
Okay. Pure and impure minds. Sage Vasishta continued. Though the worlds experienced by numerous souls are different from each other, yet it is the one absolute that sustains them all. And although every soul is involved in its own distinct world process, since they are all only reflections of the one reality, it is possible for a soul to rise beyond its illusory world and to commune with the underlying reality of Brahman. The difference in the jivas or individual souls are dependent upon the mind and its variation. Just as the sun reflected in numerous reservoirs of water gives rise to numerous images of itself, in the same way, Brahman, reflecting in numerous minds, give rise to numerous jivas, and each jiva in turn finds itself caught in a world process. Since the individual mind is limited and impure, it cannot mingle with an unlimited or pure mind. An impure mind is able to mingle with another impure mind to a certain extent, and it is for this reason that people can communicate with each other similarly. When the mind of an individual becomes increasingly purified, it is then able to mingle with the minds of the enlightened, and through their help is able to discover the non-dual reality behind the illusion of names and forms. Furthermore, a pure mind can gain access into an impure mind. And it is in this way an advanced yogi understands the problems of the others. So here Swamiji is explaining Sage Vasishta that what is the difference between the pure mind and impure minds, and how the, just like similarly we always associate people of our kind, just like the impure mind always associate with the impure mind. And the enlightened minds are trying to be enlightened. They also try to associate with the enlightened people. This is beautifully Swamiji has written. Sage Vasishta is telling to Rama how they...
Can you talk a little louder, Ratnamma?
Okay, pure mind and the impure mind. Thank you, Dr. Prabhuji. Hari Om.
Yeah. So you can see beautifully that how important it is to purify our minds. Without purifying our minds, there is no progress in spirituality. Purifying means going from tamas and rajas to sattva. And the sattva has to become like 99% or 100% sattva. So when it's pure sattva, then automatically that you get the realization with the help of a guru, or even Bhagavan himself might enlighten you directly. That kind of a realized soul with such a purified mind is able to read the other people's minds, and if he's a devotee, he can help that devotee based on what is needed for his spiritual growth. So that's the reason it's very important when you have a Sadguru who is realized, that's why it's called a Sadguru, then don't leave him and don't waste your time and make all your efforts. And the pure mind can get access to the impure mind. It is in this way the advanced yogi understand the problems of the others. And so you might not know how he is helping. You might not be communicating with you, but he is guiding you in your life. And so that's the reason it is important that even if the guru is not in front of you in a body form, by tuning our mind with the Guru and continuing to do the sadhana that he has given you, and you will continue to make progress spiritually. So there is no question of physical distance between the Guru and the Shishya. So, Sarveshji, you want to read, sir?
Yes, Hari Om.
Hari Om, sir.
Every soul experiences the three states of waking, dream, and deep sleep. But when these three states are transcended, the soul discovers its essential nature as Brahman, the Absolute, and becomes free from the world process. During deep sleep, everyone experiences the absence of duality, but the veil of ignorance is not removed. However, through the negation of the world process by the experience of samadhi, the positive counterpart of deep sleep, the sage tears through the veil of ignorance and enters the fourth state of consciousness, or turiya, thereby transcending the illusory first three states. Brahman is also called turiya, is the essence behind all the experiences of the jiva, and must be sought and realized. Nothing is gained by diverting one's attention over the non-essential and illusory objects of the world. This is it's very beautifully explained that the three stages, states of waking, dream, and deep sleep of all the souls, and that all these states are illumined by Brahman only through the reflection of consciousness. During deep sleep, everyone experiences the absence of duality, but the veil of ignorance is not removed. I think that is very important to notice. The negation of the world process by experience of samadhi, the positive counterpart in the deep sleep. The ignorance is to be removed, and the fourth state of consciousness, turiya, to be obtained. So here again, Brahman, who is also called turiya, I think a lot of times we are referred turiya as a reflected consciousness, is the essence behind all the experiences of the jiva and must be sought and realized.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Very beautiful. So, what is the opposite of deep sleep? Opposite of deep sleep is turiya, not the waking state, as we would normally think by common sense. Probably you can compare the dream, and as an opposite of dream is the waking state. But the opposite of deep sleep is the turiya. So, like it's beautifully said, that we ourselves get get a sample of that experience of the turiya stage from the deep sleep state. When there's no mind, you're completely in bliss. But when you wake up, you're still ignorant. Oh, I'm still this same Raghu. I have to continue to do the same things. Okay. But when you attain to that state of Turiya, then you realize I am not this body, mind, the intellect. Though I am still in the body, mind, the intellect, I continue to live as this Raghu. That I am not, I know I am not Raghu. That, that, that's called Jivan Mukti. So, so we have to keep on knowing. If you don't get attached to the things and keep saying to ourselves, hey, all these things, as we know, are transitory. So many things have happened in the past. Are they still there? No. And so many things are coming from the future, they go to the past, and so everything is illusory. What is that which is the witness of all this illusory past, future, and all that? Is my pure consciousness that I am. So that Brahman or Turiya is the essence behind everything.
Raghuji, question on that. Here it says that, right? It is the essence behind all the experiences of the jiva. This is the one which we say that this the consciousness, which is actually in Sakshi Bhava, is watching everything. That is the one which is experiences, right?
Right.
So then, but we read it in, we actually discussed in multiple times. It is Brahman is beyond that, right? That is beyond that Sakshi Bhava, right?
No, the Brahman is the Sakshi.
Brahman is, so, okay.
But we see the thing is, as Sakshi, we still identify with our mind and intellect. Okay. But here, the word Sakshi is just like the sun. In the presence of the sun, so many activities happen in the world. Okay. Does sun take any credit for it? No. Whether there is earth here or not, it continues to shine. So that is the meaning of the witness. Witness means just shines without any kind of identification with anything. And
Yeah,
so it's
because,
not a thought process. So,
yeah. Now, because I actually, in tantric classes, we talk about the Turiya Adita. Okay. Turiya
yeah.
is there, then there is a Turiya Adita, right? So that
Yeah,
is
some
why,
people talk about it, and so then those who people talk about Surya Titha, then you have to go to their definition of it, right?
okay.
Some people say the Videha Mukti is Surya Titha, or there's something beyond Surya, called Surya Titha, and so they try to differentiate and what do you call dissect into it.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
Shobhanam, I want to continue, please.
Sure, Raghuji. Just as the eyes are unable to look at themselves, in the same way, the seeing self, due to its externalization, is unable to discover its own essential glory. Though Brahman continues to shine like the vast blue sky, yet it is not seen because of the externalized vision of the mind. The seer is the only reality behind all that is seen. It is like the supreme ruler of the illusory names and forms. It can assume any limited form and become identified with it, just as one can identify the ocean with any of the numerous waves. In the same way, Brahman is identified with any of the numerous names and forms of this illusory world. So here I think you can see similarities with Dridrisha Viveka, where you they're talking about the seer, seen, and sought. So in the first paragraph, he says that the eyes are themselves not being able to see, and so through Brahman, they continue to shine like the vast blue sky, and it cannot be seen because of externalization. And in the next paragraph, he says the only reality behind all this is Brahman, and he is the seer, and he is the one who is seeing all the objects of the world, and he is the supreme ruler of all these names and forms. And like you identify that one ocean with the many waves, you identify with one Brahman, with the many jivas, with the many names and forms in the world.
Right. Yeah. So, all the waves are the ocean, but just a wave itself is not the ocean. And but everything is nothing but the water. Same way that Brahman alone is. So just like being capable of seeing, that I know that I have eyes, I don't have to see the eyes by themselves, that by implication that I know I have eyes, the eyes are able to, my eyes are good. The same way that we know, since I am able to think, the thinking capacity comes from that Brahman. That Brahman Ahamasmi, not the thinking process, not the seeing, hearing, and all that. That's a part of the BMI. And so, if you can constantly identify with that, then we become more and more detached from the outside world. So, that alone is. So the seer and seen, this triputi is related to the duality. But this, even if you look at it, the seen is inert. The seer alone is the sentient factor. That sentient seer ahamasmi. That seer is not the thought or the mind. Sudhir ji, want to continue, sir?
Yes, Hari Om Jagatu, yes. When the mind is purified, that is all right. Okay. When the mind is purified, it rises beyond the barriers of the ego sense and is able to see numerous worlds sustained by the self. There are worlds in the mind, in the vast ether, in the rocks and blazing fires, and also in the surging waters. This world is permeated by worlds, and each world is in turn permeated by numerous other worlds. Such a such a penetrating vision is possible only through the purified mind of a yogi. The majority of countless souls continue to wander from one dream world to another. Yet, in spite of this, some rare souls perceive the world as the illusion of dream and therefore discover their essential nature. They wander no more. When the intellect turns towards the self, the internal and external aspects of the world process vanish from one's view. For just as though the awareness of the gold is gold as essence, the difference in ornaments of gold becomes illusory. In the same way, with the realization of Brahman as the non-dual reality, this world, along with countless other worlds that form the fabric of Maya or cosmic illusion, are seen to be unreal. Yeah, this three paragraph is actually just re-emphasizing the power of a pure mind, purified mind of a yogi. As it says, as an impure mind actually sees, go through different, and they see the world within world, So only a purified mind of a yogi only can actually penetrate through that and understand the illusoriness of that world.
Correct.
That is also here it says that you have to look, your intellect turns in towards the self. Then you will see, that you will be able to see the what is that called? Then once you really turn towards yourself and purify with a purified mind, you will see the differences of this world. I mean the and was like different kinds of gold ornaments, and a purified mind understand the essence of that gold. That's what it says. It is all are made of gold. And he realizes that non-dual nature of the world. So, and also yeah, it actually just see all the multiple worlds, and they see that all these worlds are actually illusory, and realizes the world is unreal. That is what I
Yeah.
understood.
Yeah. So just like a goldsmith knows everything is nothing but gold, same way a realized man knows everything in the world that we see is nothing but that Brahman alone. And so there's nothing that Brahman Ahamasmi. So when everything is me, what is there for me to get attached? What is there for me to get dejected or get dislike something? So everything is me alone. But names and forms are illusory.
I have one regarding that intellect turns towards the self. I actually was listening to one of the Prabhashanam of one Jayaraj from Sri Lanka. He was actually giving one example regularly. See, the example was the teacher was asked a student. He just put a dot in the on the blackboard, and he started a line. Okay, then he actually asked the first person to stretch the line to end the line. So the first student gone and stretched the line to the end of the that blackboard. Then he said, "What happened?" "Yeah, that line ends." Then he called the another guy. "Is that line is end?" No, he said no. So the another student said no, because the line did not end, but the blackboard actually ended. Okay, so then he said, okay, then he put another blackboard there. Then the line got stretched, and then that line also got ended. So then finally he asked me what happened. So I know that this actually you can extend it, but I don't know how to stop it and how to stop this line, the end of the line. Then the third student came and said, I will fix this. What he did it, he took the line for the end and gone back to the end. He made a circle. Okay, where you start and you just go all the way, go into that means. So the why it is saying that we are actually all our thought process, we actually take it outside of us. So then when you go out, you will have multiple questions, all those things. But if you really wanted to know about the world and yourself, you have to go to where you started. So that means it's a circle. You have to go into that. So that I just want to say that example
Thank you.
really.
Very nice story. Thank you. So the first paragraph that Sudhir ji read is very, very interesting, showing that worlds inside the world, world inside the world, world inside the world, that we saw from that Leela story earlier on. uh, so, uh, showing that what we consider as so important in this world, my house, my wife, my children, my thing, my knowledge, and all that, is so tiny or what do you call inconsequential when you look at the whole universe and universes inside universes and all that, and beings in all those universes. And so, only thing that we have to realize is that all this is illusory, and my real nature is that pure awareness alone. And then we can go to any of these universes and play the way we want. Why? Because I am have become with the total, and there's really nothing for me to achieve, nothing for me to do. So,
Guruji, is that actually emphasize that in the last in that page number 164, it says that finally that we stand like that a pure mind can access into the impure mind, and it is in this way an advanced yogi understand the problem of others. It is something like that. Each people's problem. I mean, each people have got their own world, right? This yogi is actually looking into those. Can we just use that as an example there?
I didn't understand the question.
No, the question is, see, the world within world, I know, so I know, world, see, a lot of worlds, right? My world, your world, I
Right,
think
right.
Vijayji's world are all different, actually, kind of world. A yogi can see through all these world only with a pure mind.
Yeah,
That is,
right. Yeah. When pure mind means it has become one with the cosmic mind. Purer becomes, more it has access to the cosmic mind. And when it's completely pure, it has become one with the total cosmic mind. That's how I understand it. Uma Shankar, you want to read, Amma?
The disease of jivahood, I am the individual soul, is cured by taking recourse to the medicine of spiritual inquiry. Who am I? What is the nature of this world? But as long as this inquiry does not gain a firm hold over one's mind, so long will one continue to suffer from this chronic disease. As a result of spiritual inquiry, a person experiences increasing dispassion towards the objects of the world. When raga or attachment wanes, then consider it as an unmistakable sign of success on the spiritual path. But when raga dominates, the mind cannot be internalized and the senses cannot be controlled. Therefore, the practice of controlling the sense objects, the sense becomes effective only when joined with the inquiry of who am I?
Want to comment?
Yeah, this is very important. Knowing who am I. Until then, one cannot go further.
Yeah, yeah. Very nice. Good summary. So, yeah. If somebody asks, or you yourself think, who am I? Oh, I am this Raghu, I am this so and so, like that. But only as we get purified and more and more and more, that if somebody asks the question, who am I? Or if you start thinking, then with the help of the study of the scriptures and the Guru, then we start realizing, hey, I'm acting like this Jiva, I'm acting like this Raghu, I'm acting as if that I own all these things are real. But really, I am that pure awareness alone. Just like Ramana Maharshi says, Manasam tu kim margane krute, naiva manasam marga arjavat. So, what is this mind? If you continue to think, the mind completely quietens and disappears. And then you are faced with that pure awareness alone. So there's reason for people like us who are still have significant amount of rajas and tamas, that we should continue to purify ourselves and continue to do have this kind of satsangs and study, more and more and more time spent in these studies. And that way, naturally, your mind gets withdrawn from the thinking of the objects of the world. So unless the mind is controlled, the senses cannot be controlled. Shama is very, very important because when the mind is thinking of objects of the world, naturally the senses start going after the objects. So once you have a good sense control, and then you through the mind you control the senses. Shama and Dama. So they are interrelated together. So the last sentence is beautiful. Therefore, the practice of controlling the senses becomes effective only when joined with the inquiry of who am I. So, the practice of karma yoga and karma sannyasa, all that shama, dama, upanama, titiksha, and all those things become effective when we start simultaneously do this inquiry. That is gnana yoga. So. Veena is not here. Vijay, you want to continue, sir?
Hari Om. As a result of spiritual, sorry, many are able to gain verbal knowledge of Brahman. That is, they are able to speak of the identity of the soul with Brahman, but they are far from realizing this truth. Such verbal knowledge is like painting on a fire. It cannot give heat or warmth. As one advances to the practice of viveka or discrimination between the self and non-self, the aspirant develops increasing vairagya or dispassion. As raga decreases, he becomes free from the sense of hatred or animosity towards one person or things in the world. He becomes endowed with healthy reasons that distinguishes right from wrong. And finally, this luminous reasons blooms into the institutional realization of Brahman. So this is here they're talking mainly about us because we have a verbal knowledge of Brahman, but and the thing is we don't able to realize that truth. So for that, he clearly says that you have to practice vairagya and viveka. So that's the only way so that we can control the mind or focus on the mind towards what we are looking for. Hari Om.
Yeah, yeah. Those two paragraphs are so beautiful that if you have Shama, Dama, Uparama, and all that, is okay, good, but that cannot be achieved completely, uh, permanently, until you have mature Viveka and Vairagya. Only when you have that intense vairagya to the world, and like what Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, what do you call? Eka Bhakti. That means devotion to Bhagavan and 100% mind turned towards Bhagavan, not to the world, not even 10% or 5% to the world. So that's why in the initial stages we need to completely withdraw. So for a grihastha it's extremely difficult, but we have to continue to do the sadhana. But as we do the sadhana, that Bhagavan gives us the opportunity to be able to withdraw, and it is for us to withdraw. But we continue to be bogged down. But we say, oh, I want to go and see this vacation. I want to go on this place. I want to go to this party. I want to go to this reception. And things like that. We continue to be bogged down. So, very, very important. At some stage, we have to completely withdraw ourselves and do the sadhana. And for that, we should be able to have that vairagya, number one. Number two, even if I go away to a remote place, if my mind is still interested in what is my son doing, what my grandchildren doing, and what the world is, what is going on in the world, in the mind, so the body is sitting in an ashram, but the mind is not. So it is important that we prepare ourselves now, and then when the opportunity comes, take the opportunity and intensify our sadhana. So, Vishwa, you want to continue, sir?
Ravi, I'll skip for this week, Ravi. I'm not in, don't
Okay.
have my book with me now.
Okay.
Sorry. Hurry up.
Akilama.
Section 19. The essence that transcends the three states of consciousness. Sri Vashishta continued. Just as the seed gives rise to a mighty tree, even so, Brahman has given rise to the world process. However, in the case of the seed, as the tree emerges, it ceases to exist, while in the case of Brahman, he remains unaffected. Brahman is the substratum for the illusory projection of the world process. Just as in a plantain stem, there is layer after layer of leaves, in the same way, this world process is constituted of layers of illusions, and enclosed in these layers, numerous souls abide like tiny worms and insects. So here, you just explained to us the difference between the seed and how the seed disappears, and how Brahman, who is given rise to this world process, never disappears. He is the substratum.
Right.
So that is reiterated here, Raghuji. And
Yeah.
then he gives the example of the plantain stem and how the layer after layer, you have the same thing. So this world process has layers and layers of illusions.
Yeah. Starting from this earthly life, Bhuloka, up to the Brahmaloka, there are different layers and layers of subtler and subtler worlds and subtler jivas. And that is one loka. Okay. In another Brahmaloka, similarly, like that. So there are innumerable lokas. Okay. Are you interested in going from one loka to another, one loka to the other? Okay. Then you will continue to be bogged down in this world of change, either in this world or the heavenly world, or by getting attached to too many things, then we will be born again as animal worlds, and so we will go up and down without reaching our real goal. So it's very extremely important that we continue our sadhana. Okay, and Anjaneyulu, sir. Anjaneyulu is not here today. And Asha Agarwal didn't come back. And Dr. Noli is not here today. And Dinesh.
Hari Om.
Hari Om, sir.
So, though being essentially Brahman on the basis of karma, action, and upasana, one-pointed, longing, or worship, every individual soul has the possibility of rising to the heights of gods or falling into the lesser planes of animals and worms. Those who worship the gods attain godhood, while those who worship yakshas, spirits presiding over treasures, become yakshas. Others who worship Hiranyagarbha, the cosmic mind, rise to Hiranyagarbha, and those who worship the Supreme Brahman rise to Supreme Brahman. It was in this way that Shukracharya, by worshipping the Apsara or the heavenly damsel, was able to follow her through many embodiments. But later, having attained purity of heart, he became free from the bondage of the world process. By repeatedly running after the objects of the world, the consciousness in a person becomes deeply involved in the world process. But when the involvement is curbed or restrained, it is capable of modifying itself to anything by the mere act of will. In the case of Shukracharya, his consciousness was not deeply involved in the world process, and therefore he was able to follow the course of his desire uninterruptedly. In the case of the majority of people, however, their consciousness is deeply colored by the world process, and they must therefore labor under the burden of desires and longings to attain what they want. But in the case of enlightened sages, their consciousness is free of even the subtlest forms of afflictions, ignorance, egoism, attachment, and hate, and having no desire for transient attainments, abide solely in Brahman.
Want to comment?
Yeah, so this is basically the same thing Bhagavan Shri Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita. You know, there are billions and billions of people, and we all have different desires. And the God says, if that's what you want, I will give you that. And people continuously asking for one or the other or the next thing, and they keep getting it, but in the end, they're still not happy. So that's just by the process of elimination, I guess, they eventually get to their destination. But some people who have evolved or who have learned from the other people's mistakes or experiences, they have come to realize if they focus on the Brahman and understand, reflect on everything that is going on, then they tend to gravitate towards the Brahman and realize that ultimately that's where the salvation is.
Yeah.
That's the way I understand it.
Yeah.
Hariom.
Yeah. So these paragraphs are so intense and so much that we have to sit and contemplate on. Like in ninth chapter Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, Epi anyadevata bhaktaha yajante shraddhayanvitaha tepi mameva kaunteya yajanti avidipurvakam. Say, all the other gods are where? All the other gods are nothing but manifestations of the Supreme alone. But we think of different particular gods and want to achieve that goal. That's why he says, Aham ki sarvayagnana bhokta cha prabhureva cha natumam abhichanante tatvena tatvena ataha chavantite, that they fall down. So, what we have to understand is that I am that pure consciousness which is enjoying the world of objects. Is not that the world of objects are important. So the last one is the one that's just like in this first paragraph. It says, Yanti deva vrata devan, pitrun yanti pitruvrataha, bhutani yanti bhutejyaha, yanti mad it's hard for me to read that English transliteration. Mad yajino pimam. So those who worship the devas, they go to God. Those who worship the Pitrus, they go to Pitrus. Those who worship the various Bhutas and Pisachas, they go to that. Those who worship me, they come to me. So like that. So you can worship yakshas and spirits, and then you go to those worlds to fulfill those desires. Or you might keep doing the lot of what do you call meditation on a particular god like Brahmaji or Vishnu Loka or whatever. Then you go to that particular Loka, and then there you continue to do the sadhana and achieve. That's what you call Krama Mukti. But if you realize that pure Brahman Ahamasme, that you continue to sadhana and realize during with deep meditation, and then you have become one with the Brahman in this world itself. So, but as she said, by repeatedly running after the objects of the world, the conscious in a person becomes deeply involved in the world process. So whatever that we deeply are interested, that we become. And so that's the reason that uh, from our student life, if we know what our real goal of life is, and if we follow that one, then we can definitely reach that final goal in this life itself. But if in lack of it, at least if we purify ourselves to the extent possible, and then in the next life that we continue to the sadhana. So we should never give up either way. But in case of enlightened souls, their consciousness is free from even the subtlest forms of affliction. There's no ignorance, so there is no desire for anything in the world. If at all there is any desire, is for Loka Kalyan, to lift the ignorant jivas who are doing the sadhana and help them achieve the goal. Okay. And Karpagam, you want to read, Amma?
Yes, Rafaji. Sri Rama asked, O sage, what brings about the intensification of worldliness in one's consciousness, and what keeps it in a simple, childlike state? Sri Vashishta explained, O Rama, when there is an awareness of stability in one's perception of the world, it's called waking state. But when there is an awareness of its instability, it is called the dream state. If the very same dream were perceived as a stable phenomenon, it would be experienced as a waking state. And similarly, if the waking state were to lose its stability in one's consciousness, it would be perceived as dream. Under the pressure of illusion, consciousness spreads itself through the nadis or mystic channels radiating from the heart center, mystically the center of one's personality. This mystic center is the self, and the spirit in man never goes beyond it. The entire world process is experienced in the heart, the self. But due to the limitation of mind, an illusory system of time and space is experienced through the state of dream and waking.
You want to comment?
Well, I can understand the first paragraph. Second paragraph, I couldn't understand anything.
You want to read again? Or you want to comment on the first one?
Well, it says about the waking state and the dream state. So if you know the waking state is unstable, then you know it is dream.
Yeah. So I thought the first paragraph is needs more reading and contemplation. Like in the dream, you see things and you experience things, but as soon as you wake up, all the dream things are gone. And so you know it was a dream. But in the waking world, what all you experienced, you go to sleep and you wake up, the next morning it is still there. Okay. And so that's why it's called the waking state. When you are experiencing through the body the world of objects, things have changed, continue to change, but we have become used to that continuous change, and then we think as if there is that is normal. But when you are ignorant, when you are dull, even though you are awake, you continue to daydream. And your daydreaming is so much, like because of Thomas, okay, that dream has become real like a waking state. because you are constantly living in that dream state. But as an enlightened person with a pure heart, you see the waking state and you see the people, objects, and everything through your body and the senses. But you know, because of a pure heart and knowledge, that everything is just a dream. And so, everything, waking state, dream state, and deep sleep state, all these are based on our how much enlightened we are. So that's something we have to contemplate. So that's the reason it is very, very important that we, in the earlier stages of our life, when the mind has got a tendency to waver and start daydreaming, that you keep your mind occupied in the form of japa, satsang, study of the scriptures, or chanting of the Vishnu Sahasranam, Lalita Sahasranam, and things like that. So that way you are preventing the mind to go into daydreaming. Keep your, just like it is said that keep your mind where your hands are, like that. So, or where your speech is. By constantly doing that, your mind can be controlled. So, okay. One more person. Madhu Kukkala here today? No. Okay. Mano Naidu, you want to read again, Amma?
With increasing tamas or inertia, the mind is unable to project either the waking or dream states, and the spirit becomes identified with the causal body, which consists of a mass of ignorance. In this state, it is said to be in the sleep state. The reality of the self is realized by transcending these three states of waking, dream, and deep sleep. When the nadis are vital channels of the person in sleep are influenced by the three humors, bile, phlegm, and air, which are effects of the gunas, his dreams are affected accordingly. For example, if they are influenced by bile, he dreams of fire and heat. When influenced by phlegm, the dreams of rivers and wading through water. So, as the nadis are pressured in particular ways, these arise different experiences as one's dream. And similarly, just as the dream world is nothing but a magic show manipulated by the pranic currents of the nadis, so too waking world is nothing but the same dream made stable through the formation of deep-rooted impressions in the mind.
Want to comment?
First one is clearly written here. The tamas, the mind is unable to project either the waking or the dream states because it consists of a mass of ignorance, so it identifies with the causal body. So, in that state, it is said to be in the sleep state, and self is the reality of the self is realized by transcending all the three states. So, there is no way the tamasic people can realize that. The second one is interestingly, the nadis are vital channels of the person in sleep, are influenced by the bile, phlegm, and air, and they are supposed to be the effects of the gunas. So the dreams are affected accordingly, and when it is influenced by the bile, fire, and heat, and influenced by phlegm, rivers and wading through water, and the nadis are pressured in particular way, different experiences one's dream. So the dream world is nothing but a magic manipulation of the pranic currents of nadis, and the waking world is nothing but the same dream made stable through the deep rooted impressions in the mind. I am not sure about the way it is all explained, but
Yeah. So only way that I understood, like you said, I don't understand completely, is that the same thing, the mind, how it is interacting with the world and inside is based on the nadis. And so the how will the sense objects, the sense organs and all these function? The whole body functions because of the connection of the prana between the mind and the physical body. And so the mind is going to determine the whole the pranic current. So once you purify your mind, the pranic current becomes pure. And so the our body and the senses act in the sattvic manner. So, that's the way I understood it. So it's another way of expressing it. Actually, I really didn't see any particular slokas in the original book corresponding to this paragraph. So I don't know if I didn't read properly or Swamiji was writing it based on his own experience of the yogic path. Okay, Nag, you want to continue and finish the. I'm sorry, let me see who is supposed to read next. Mano Naidu, Maya.
Both the experiences of a dream and of the waking world are modifications of consciousness through the subtle desires of chitta or mind. Whatever desire is sustained by the jiva or individual soul, that is acquires, and in this way waves the illusion of apparent reality. Therefore, having understood the illusoriness of the waking and dream states, one should renounce attachment to all that is transient and illusory. It is solely the deluded vision that the world is real that causes the soul to experience numerous birth and death. I think it's quite explained. Maybe you can elaborate a little more, Prabhuji.
Yeah. So, the experiences of the dream and the waking world are nothing but modifications of the mind. What are the waves in an ocean? Just modifications of the ocean. The same way, the mind, uh, sattvic, rajasic, or tamasic, are all modifications of the Atman alone. That is, mind is another name for it, is the chitta. And chitta is nothing but modifications in the pure consciousness on the surface. And so, if we forget about all these thought modifications and abide in our own self, then this chitta becomes one with the chit, that's the pure consciousness, that ahamasmi. So, having understood the illusoriness of the waking and dream states, which is nothing but the activities of the chitta, one should renounce attachment with the world of objects. That means have shama and dama and upanama. And once you withdraw everything, what happens? That mind has become completely quiet, and that you realize that pure nirvikalpa samadhi state or turiya state. So the same thing being repeated again and again and again, and then after closing the book, after the satsang, unfortunately we go back to our worldly things as if world is real. And so just by even by 0.1%, if we continue to keep this in mind in our daily activities, and day in and day out, day in and day out, day in and day out, we should develop detachment. And by constant evaluation of our own thoughts and of our own interaction with the people, of our own responses to the people, that we should continue to evaluate ourselves, not evaluate other person. So evaluate ourselves. So and that way that we will be able to purify ourselves. So it's very beautiful chapter, and till I was surprised we were able to cover 10 pages. Very intense, what do you call, the discussion of the subject matter. ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ.
Hari Om, everybody.
So, Maya, would you do the summary next class?
Yes, I will do.
Okay. Try to confine it in less than 10 minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
I'll
Hari Om.
try. I
Hari Om.
might be
Hari Om.
less than.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari
Hari
Om,
Om.
everyone.
Hari Om.
Hari Om అండి.
Hari Om. Namaskaram.
నమస్కారం అండి. ఎట్లుందండి కోల్డ్?
It's getting better.
ఓకే.
It's okay. It's getting better.
ఫ్లూ సీజన్ కదా ఇప్పుడు.
Yeah. But even I got the vaccine, but you don't know some kind of a virus, flu or whatever. So you just have to go through it.
హరి ఓం అండి.
Hari Om. Namaste.
హరి ఓం.
Namaskara, Ratna.
Namaskara. I don't know how to turn it off.
It's okay. I'll turn it off.